Hello, everyone. I'm Erin Riley. Um, I am very tired. I'm going to be very honest with everybody right now. It is Wednesday. We have had quite the week already of this virtual conference, which is so exciting and such a bucket filler for me. This is like my favorite time of year. I love conferences. I love networking. I love meeting new people. And if you didn't know by this title of today's networking is that I love storytelling. It's probably one of my favorite things to do because then I get to talk and be in front of people. It has been quite the adjustment to do this online virtually over Zoom, um, as opposed to being in a room with people. So a little bit about me. My name is Erin Riley, as you see from my nameplate here. Actually, no, I'm going to start out and be very transparent with you. I for sure wanted to have PowerPoints and more visuals and feel very much more professional and put together. But I think like a lot of us, we're adjusting to working from home or going to school from home, doing a lot of things over the internet, on top of helping set up this wonderful conference, and still doing my job, which is a lot of moving pieces and parts. So I just wanted to get that out of the way and say, like, I really wanted to be more professional, but it's gonna be what it is. But also, there's this part of me too that feels kind of like an imposter. And I was like Googling all these storytelling, like, what should I tell you and how should I do this? And then I forgot that I actually have been telling stories in front of crowds since 2011. And it's looked different in every job that I've had, but I started out talking to people about marine mammals. That was my very first presentation that I did at a Marine Science Center in Newport, Oregon. Every whale watch week, which happened twice a year on the coast, I got to talk about whales and my very favorite, sea otters. If you know me, some of you do because some of you work with me, and I talk about them a lot for working at a Center for Independent Living. Sea otters are my favorite. Like my absolute obsession. So that was my first love. And then it also, storytelling became my second love. And I got to talk about sea otters and I got to share these stories with people. And it was so much fun. Then I went on to working as an interpretive ranger in the Grand Canyon for 2 seasons. And so I got to tell a lot of stories about geology, which I hate, but I still did it. And I got to talk about the Native American cultures. And I got to talk about the wildlife there. And I just got to talk to people. And so that's just more storytelling. Came back to Idaho and started working at the Idaho Botanical Gardens. So I talked a lot about plants, which I didn't know about. So not only was storytelling, again, storytelling is a passion of mine, it also fills my bucket of learning new things, learning about new people, and then sharing that information. And so one of my, I'm going to keep saying this over and over again, my passion, my bucket fillers, my passion is also being involved in a community, which is another reason why I love conferences, because we get to share our stories together, we get to network, we get to be together, we get to feel, here's the thing, we get to feel like we're not alone in this world. And I think it's really important right now, because I don't know about you, I have felt quite alone in my house. And so this has been really important to me. And I wanted to share this storytelling. Okay, I'm coming off on a tangent here too. I just want to let you know that I also have ADHD, and I'll get hyper focused on one track and then really get distracted and start going down another track. And that's usually why I should have a syllabus outline here, right? So, all right. I'm going to show you a picture. I'm going to share it. Let's see if you could share. This is my very first time sharing a personal story. So if you can see this, it's from Story Night. I'm up on stage here, yay. This is about 100 people in one room in Boise, Idaho. And I got up and I shared a story. So as I told you before that point, it was a lot of sharing facts about my job and getting people interested in outdoors and life. And that was the first time I actually stood up and told a 10-minute story about myself personally. And it was life-changing to me because when I got off stage, I had a friend in the audience who was like, Erin, you silenced 100 people. Like, you could have heard a pin drop in that room. And that's the moment when I thought, wow, words are so powerful that you can silence 100 people. And then I was like really hooked, guys. So I did Story Night again. I did it another personal story, and this time it made people laugh. And if you were here last night, then you know that I also do stand-up comedy, and that laughter has started me down the path of being a stand-up comedian, on top of all the other things that I'm doing during my day life, is what I say. I have my day life, and I used to have my night life, but now it's a little bit different being in this COVID time, right? All right, so here's the thing. I did outline, let me read what the words that I had written. So I love being in front of people and sharing stories. It is so amazing. I know the reason why storytelling, the reason why words are so important to me is that I know that each and every one of you can think of a story that's made you laugh, that's made you cry, that's made you think, that has really invoked a feeling in you. And I also want to tell you that every single one of you are also a storyteller. And right now, I know some of you, the thought just popped in your head to say, no, I am not, but you are. And that's why I'm here. You all have stories, and some might be better at getting up in front of crowds and telling them more than others. But all of you have a story to tell. And that's the last of my notes that I have. Man, I had such a good thought on that one, and then someone called me from work and I just left it off. So really the thought that I think I was trying to say on that is that if we think about story, I want to reframe what we think about stories, right? Sometimes when we think about stories, it's like the stories in the books that we read, or maybe even the stories of the movies that we watch. But why I say you're all storytellers is that constantly throughout the day, you're telling somebody a story, no matter what that message is. And so I just want you to reframe your thinking that way. Why are words powerful? Because you're invoking a feeling, or you're trying to get a thought across. Why do I think words and stories are so powerful? Because for me, it gave me confidence. As I started to do more storytelling, I started to get more confident. I started to to doing more self-advocacy. So see, there's there we go. There's a line that I wanted to go down, right? We're independent together. We're talking about independent living. And there's a lot of talk about self-advocacy. I think storytelling and self-advocacy is great. It can be, as I want to say, it's not small, but it can be something like advocating for yourself to a doctor, all the way up to going to the Capitol and advocating for maybe a law that you think needs to be changed or enacted, or just giving education to people about either the independent living movement or disabilities. You know, there's so many topics that we can cover, but that's why, again, I say that storytelling is so powerful. Your words are so powerful. And even though you think that what you're saying may not be, it is. Words are great. Okay. Whew. All right. That was just 13 minutes. Oh my gosh. You can also, I mean, if
Can I contribute?
Oh my gosh, please save me. No. Yes.
No. I was going to say our experiences when we tell them in a story really make an impact, and we kind of implant our story in people when we tell them our story. And my favorite way to tell a story is when I'm speaking with a legislator and I want them to remember my daughter when they make a decision about Medicaid. I want them to think about my experience and my story. So I try to make my story get into their hearts a little bit, and no one can do that better than me. And no one can do it, honest to goodness. You know who can do it better than me? That's a lie, actually. There is somebody that can do it better than me. You know who that is? Macy, right? My daughter. So it really is about her and getting what she needs, and her voice really is the one that makes a difference. I always joke when I have a hard time getting something, accommodation or a meeting or something like that. I'm like, oh, I'll just come with Macy and we'll sit in the waiting room until they see us. Right? Like, it won't be long until even the person sitting at the front desk eventually will become a fan of Macy, and she will be implanted in her heart forever. And she'll think about her in the future. So our stories, they are powerful. They change laws, they change the world, and they change other people. And no one can say your story for you. No one, not even your mother. And that's the hard lesson. My story is all about how I had to get out of my own head and ego and think that I had this ability to make decisions for my daughter that no one else had, and kind of forgot about her. So it's really important for us as people to tell and share our story, because it may not work today, but it will make an impact.
Right. Thank you, Lana, which is so great. I'm so glad that you chimed in, because then I was like, oh, right, I have some tips. I have some steps. I'm going to share this with you, the 7 rules of storytelling. Now, it is for fundraising, but I want to say that you can also think of that as storytelling. Advocacy, not fundraising. What? There's so many words. There's so many buzzwords right now. Let's we'll frame it more less fundraising and more advocacy. And so I'll share my screen right now with ya. So here are some 7 rules of storytelling, right? So number 1, stories should be about real people. It's great to have nonfiction, and man, if you can write some it's great to have fiction. If you can write fiction, more power to you, because I've tried and it's hard. It's very hard. So stories should always be about real people. And I think not if we're thinking about fundraising, but we're also thinking about advocacy, and we're trying to tell other people's stories or even our stories about ourselves. They need to be real. So when it comes to this, it's like the second step is allow the person in your story to have a real name, age, and to speak for themselves. So you might be conveying, again, someone else's story, but this is also for you too. You have a name, you have an age, and you're gonna speak for yourself. So when we're self-advocating and we're thinking, I'm thinking advocacy, just like Lana said, making those impactful statements and stories, you do need to think about keeping that story short. So six words to 2 minutes. 6 words to 2 minutes. That works best. And the reason why that is, and I think you've seen this already, as I've been talking without notes, is that minds wander really quickly. So thinking about the audience that you're talking to, in about 4 to 10 seconds, your listener's gonna tune out if you haven't grabbed them already right off the bat, right? Or maybe you're like me, and 4 to 10 seconds, you're gonna drift to a second thought. So also, practicing really helps as well for what you're trying to say. But don't tell them you are going to tell them a story about someone and just tell it. Start with the person's name and age and a few descriptive words right off the bat. So I also can't tell which number's which. So I flipped 3 and 4. So what I actually meant was then the next thing is that keep your story short. Number 5, there we go. I'm back onto it. Okay, allow your story to create an emotion around it. Anger, sadness, happiness, pride. It doesn't matter what that emotion is, but your listener should feel something. So we talked about that. And I know that you could probably think of a few stories that are short that someone has told you or you've heard that you can already feel that feeling that you got when they told you that story. Number 6 is that your story should have a moment that paints a picture. So you're encouraging your listener to see themselves or someone in their lives. And it could be aging parents. They're the daughter of the person who makes their latte. These are interesting descriptions. Or maybe the person that takes bank deposits, or even their own children. So number 7 is the best stories are told by the person themselves. Look, there we go. We got right to 7. And actually the best story told is by you and by yourself. So this is clients telling their own stories are the most moving way to share how your organization makes a difference. And I think that is so true as well. If we think about impacts of organizations, impacts of programs. So I know that Project Search is here. Some of you are here, and I'm sure that there are ways that you have stories even within that program, that Project Search program, that you have those small impactful stories that you talk about when you talk about the program, especially if you're trying to, depending on if you're trying to get someone interested in going into the program, or even, again, we are nonprofits too, so we think about fundraising sometimes, and that's how we can get our funding and our backing, or again, people just interested in spreading the word as well. So I'll keep that up for just a little bit more, just in case like you're writing it down or something like that. But I'll make sure to also give this photo, and we can put it up on our website for you guys too on the conference, so that you can look at it for reference as well. So I'm gonna tell you a story. So not only do I tell a lot of stories, there's a lot of background in storytelling, but I also have gone to a conference. As I told you, I really love conferences. So I've been to a conference called the Nonprofit Storytelling Conference. And there, and she told me I could use this story, but I met this gal there, and she works in San Francisco. She works for, she actually works for a nonprofit that finds funding for San Francisco area for their CILs, for their Centers for Independent Living, for their day centers, anything that has to do, as far as I knew, anything that had to do with disability activism and things like that, they would actually find funding, which sounded really awesome. And I wish we had that in Idaho, but we don't. But she shared a story with me about Jared, and he's 37. And he was an active participant at an adult day center in the Bay Area. He would always be there in the television room, or the big living room that they had, and he'd always be in front of the TV. And Jared had autism, and he was nonverbal. And the organization she worked with had ended up being able to find some funding for iPads with a program on them for people who were nonverbal to use. And so they gave one to Jared, and granted, he had never said a sentence in his life. And so with anticipation, they handed him this iPad, and the very first thing that he said was, "Turn off the TV." Baseball was on. They found out that he hates baseball, and they thought that maybe the first word's going to be, "Hi, hello, how are you?" But no, he hated baseball so much that he said a whole sentence of "turn off the TV." And then, so that has been an impactful story to me because, one, it's super funny to me. And also it's impactful to me because this is a person who, again, never seemed to have a voice, but they found a voice for him. And the first thing he did, exactly, Kelly Dole, was self-advocate. He said, "I don't like this, turn the TV off." So there were so many messages in that very short story. So you can see how short a story can be, but how it can also, I mean, I get goosebumps even sometimes thinking about how cool that situation. I mean, I was right in it with them when she was telling me this. So yeah, so I just wanted to kind of share that with you because I think, you know, we all have short stories like that. I really do believe that, even if you don't think you have it right now, Todd, because I know I'm thinking about you right now telling me that you don't have stories, but I know you do. I actually really do know you do. So I think what I'd like to do right now is if anybody has anything that they'd like to say before we go into groups of 2 or 3, we'll kind of break out into subgroups. And I think the topic that I would love for you to share a story on is one that should be near and dear to all our heart. And let me get the correct hashtag for this. Thanks to the ADA is going to be our prompt. I will put that in the chat so that you can remember. If you don't feel comfortable turning your video on, that's totally fine. I still would like you to talk though in your groups, you know, however comfortable that is. And I'm giving you a couple of minutes right now before I put you in the groups to think about thanks. Our prompt is thanks to the ADA. So if anybody is wondering, what's the ADA? I'm not going to shame you for not knowing what the ADA is right now, but that's the Americans with Disability Act. Just some backstory, it's the 30th anniversary right now of the ADA. And so I just wanted to tie that theme in because I think all of us have some stories of why we are thankful for it And it should be, I won't say easy, because I know there might be some of you right now who are biting your fingernails, maybe not really, but like you're a little bit nervous about being put on the spot. That's also why I wanted to put you in small groups so you can introduce yourselves, and then just, you know, again, it is a short story. It's a short story of why you're thankful. It does not have to be long. What did I say? I said 4 words up to 2 minutes. 4 words up to 2 minutes. 6, sorry, thank you, Todd. See, better minds than me. 6 words. 6 words up to 4 minutes of a story. So let's see if I can, anybody have anything to say before we jump into those groups? One, this will be fun to try and do. Leanne is the master at putting people into groups. I will see how it works for me. Let's see, breakout rooms. So as you can see, stories can for sure just give you all sorts of emotions, right? So I think that we should probably wrap up for tonight.
Yep, I gotta eat dinner.
Yes, we gotta eat dinner. For
Yeah,
sure.
it's dinner time. Okay.
I appreciate you all.
Oh, let's plug tomorrow morning. Make sure
So
you're
tomorrow morning, yeah, plug it, Kelly, plug it away.
9 a.m. We have an amazing guest speaker that's going to be really motivational and inspiring, and we hope you're all there.
It's one, they're all of them together. It's all of the sessions together. So one speaker at 9 a.m.
Yep.